Right, hello, hi there. So this is chapter 6, um, planning with limiting factors, chapter 6. And we have already seen a little bit of this earlier on. So we discussed some time ago about the fact that firms have to deal with scarce resources all the time. Um, just because this isn't common, but in the short term, and a lot of this is short-term decision making. Firms are faced with having to make these type of decisions in the short term. So, like anything, if you're short of time, you do what you can. You do what gives you the greatest um, output, so to speak, or the greatest contribution in for that time that you have to spend. And when you do have time, in a way, I sometimes think about it as spending time with people. If you think about it this way, if you have all the time in the world, it doesn't really matter. You can just spend time with people as you want. But then if you only have a limited time, you then choose who it is you will spend time with because you won't see them again. And so you spend as much time as you can with that person first because you won't see them again. And then whatever time you have left, you make the others, or you spend time with the others because you'll still see them again. So the key point really is that firms typically are facing constraints on their activities, so it doesn't really matter what it is. Our focus tends to be on either limited labor or limited skill, labor, skill, or material. We don't really analyze limited finance, but we could very much apply the same principles to finance. And we even have the issue of limited demand, and that means that just restricts the amount we do make, and therefore we're able to channel resources into other areas. So typically, the way we know what's going on here is that how we can figure out what resource is in short supply is if we cannot meet demand. Right. If we can't meet full demand, the potential demand that we're told, then it means that, well, that resource is in short supply. So the strategy, as we did earlier in the previous lectures, is to identify the scarce resource and calculate the contribution per unit for each product based on that scarce. Calculate the contribution per unit, then calculate the contribution per unit of the scarce resource for each product. Rank the products in order of contribution per unit of the scarce resource, and then allocate resources using this ranking to answer the question. So when we look at it like that, we now have, so let's just pause. Right, sorry, I was just checking my, because I forgot to put my microphone in, but it had recorded anyway, so that's good. So, 1 second, let me just do this. Here we are. So that was the sort of the structure we said. Allocate resources using this ranking and answer the question. So let's do this. There's an exercise, TYU1, in your textbooks. TYU1, it's on page 167 of your text. Oh, it'll be the first TYU in chapter 6. So let's look at this and see what we have. So we have the scenario where this business makes 3 products, A, B, and C. And this is the situation. We need 10 machine hours here, 12 machine hours, and 14 machine hours. And we spend £7 or $7 making it a unit, and it's 50p or 50 cents per kilogram. So therefore it means we're using 14 kilograms. You can see I'm trying to kind of figure out what the resource is going in to making each of these products are. So in an exam, you might just be given the amount, the actual value, so you have to work backwards, and you will also be given some kind of wages per hour. You can work backwards and find out what that is. I'm also given the variable overheads. In this case, it's 3, 3, and 3. Interesting. Yeah, so this is given to me. Direct wage, variable overheads are given to me. Typically, variable overheads will vary with labor help, but this time they're given to you. And so when we work out the total marginal cost, that's £7 plus 9 plus 3, giving you 19. So we can actually work out the marginal cost of each of these. So that's the first thing. That's the first step. Then we know what the selling price, we're given what the selling price is, and the selling price for each of these is given. And if that's the marginal cost, and we take that away from each other, we know we can now find out what the contribution is. So yes, A might have the greatest contribution, but the question is, in terms of using a scarce resource to make it, how much scarce resource has had to go in to come out with 6? How much scarce resource has had to go in to come out with 5? And how much scarce resources had to go in to come out with 4? And that's what we're trying to work out. This is demand. So, like I said, what we know something is scarce if we can't quite meet full production. So they have to produce 1,000 units of product A, by the way, and it says supply of materials is unlimited. So they tell us that you have enough material, but machine hours are limited to this and direct labor to this. So what we should do is just see, well, how much, if we're going to make all of these, do we have the time and the material to do so? Then we know which material is scarce. Then we know which material we need to prioritize in terms of using it. So they want us to kind of find the optimal production levels and then state the maximum contribution based on that. So let's rank. Let's find out which of these is scarce. Let's see how many machine hours and labor hours in total that these products will need. So here's our situation. We've worked all this out already. And let's look at machine hours. So in terms of machine hours, that's 10 hours if you remember for A, and 12 for B, and 14 for C. Say we multiply those, you have 196 machine hours. And they tell us that we have a total of 200,000. So we're okay. We're not using all of it up. In terms of labor hours, that's what I need for each of those products to make all of them. And I need 13,600. And I believe you only have 5,000. So this is your scarce resource. So the question has to be, the question really is about how efficiently I can use labor to make sure in the short term, because it is scarce. So I need to use it as best as I possibly can. So that's what I've just written here. And you can see clearly that this is where the bottleneck is. So let's rank them. So I still have to make 1,000 units of A. This is a given. Maybe this is a set contract that you can't deviate from. There's nothing you can do. So let's see. So in terms of here we are, here's your contribution. And I'm told that I can see here that to make a unit of A, I need an hour, 1.2 hours. Here I need 0.8 hours, and here I need 0.4 hours. So in the short term, in terms of what is my contribution per labor hour, that's 10, that's 6.25, and that's 5. So if I'm ranking them, product C is the most profitable to make in the short term. Product C in the short term, whilst labor is scarce. Is scarce. Okay. So I'm going to make all of product C first, then B, and then A. But I know I have to make 1,000 units, I believe 1,000 units of A first. So I have to make this anyway. And then whatever hours I have left, I will use in the ranking, right? Because that's what the question specifically tells us. Okay, great. So make that first. So if I make, so that means I need 1,000 hours first. So, 1,000, to make 1,000 units, that's 1.2. So then I have 3,800 hours left. So I'm going to make all of C, and I have 6,000 units to make. I need 0.4 hours. That's 2,400, and whatever is left, I use to make B, which is 1,400. So if it's 0.8 hours to make each unit, and you have a total of 1,400 hours, that means you can make 1,750. That's where we are. So I guess fundamentally the question now is, well, what is contribution? And just talking about contribution, if we go back, we can see that the contribution, of course, was 6, 5, and 4. So just multiply them by the units, the relevant units, and there you have your contribution. if you like, giving you, when you add all these together, that gives you 38,750. So that's how you tackle this issue of scarce resources. Quickly, just going back through the process. And if you do it this way, to be honest, you should be fine. Identify what the scarce resource is, that you might have to look at the demand to see which resources can't meet demand. And then look at each unit and calculate the contribution for each of them. Calculate the contribution, then do the contribution per the scarce resource. Then rank the products in order of that contribution, and then allocate the resource based on that. Cool, awesome, great stuff. So this is part 1 of chapter 6, and we'll carry on with part 2.